Hello folks, welcome to Adwit with me, Sarah Golding, and her, Lindsay Harris-Friel. Woohoo! Here is part 2 of our chat to Emily Inkpen, Floyd Kennedy, Shannon Perry and Brendan Connolly on writing tools of choice. What's yours? Do let us know. writersadwit@gmail.com. Enjoy!
One of the things that I have done is pronunciation guides.
Mm-hmm.
So pronunciations are tricky. I write science fiction. I make up words. I think that they're perfectly easy to say, but everybody says them differently. That's like that's a ritual in the studio. But one of the things that I sometimes, or I tried doing at one point, was putting all of the words in bold. This is something I do for the remote recorders where I'm not going to be there with them when they record. I put all of the unusual words that I have included in what I create is a pronunciation guide where I say the words out loud so that people can hear how they say. And I put all of those words in their speeches in bold. So sort of saying, these are the words that you might have trouble with. These are the ones that are included in the guide. Go and listen. You can't guarantee that people are going to do that. And even though I put this stuff in bold, you still get stuff back that isn't, they haven't checked, or they've checked, but then they've forgotten and they've delivered the line differently. And,
These people need to take the quirky voices course. I'm absolutely sure they need to teach it.
Yes, that is exactly what they should
do. I was speaking Polish this week, can you believe, for the same thing. I cannot recite it now, but essentially, yes, I would play the audio in my ears and I would record my attempt at that directly in, and then I would go back to the script and see how much of that I could beautifully remember. So that kind of tool is so useful. But in the moment, because you're so, as I say, your natural rhythms are going. I mean, I got words wrong this week, right, with you, Emily. There's some things that just with a name, and it was the stress that for some reason just wasn't hitting in my brain the right way. So it's an interesting thing, and all you can do is provide the resources and tools for them to try to get it right. And then what's going to happen then is that if it's not right, it's just going to have to be a re-record or a Frankenstein edit of something they did that was right, that you can hopefully put in that's going to work.
Or you just think, can we cut out that geographical reference? Does everyone need to know that that's the river they were on? Maybe not. We can just say river.
But that's for later. But I think as a tool, I think that's a really great thing to highlight those difficult words. Brilliant. Anything else people think of that there's definitely a need in the script for voice actors?
Well, I learned the hard way that if I don't put every single vocalization in, it's not going to be recorded, and then it's not going to be available. and I learned that when I say the hard way, 400 pages of this have to be revised. And that's,
you know what?
I
used to be the same way, and now it's a big trust thing. It's like, even if the line doesn't sound the way I imagined it, that doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't mean vocal inflection. I meant vocalizations in the sense of grunts or groans or gasps or oohs or ahs. I didn't mean in the sense of putting Rileys in there. I meant I mean, honestly, I think you're absolutely right, Lindsay, about trust. The more little what are jokingly called Rileys, the little things in brackets, the more of those you put in there, the more of an enemy you make out of your actors, to be honest. And you want to hand them that freedom. But the whole bends over, deep breath at the end of a run, grunts as they try and open the safe door, whatever it is. If you don't have it, it doesn't exist. And if you can't, and if it doesn't exist in audio terms, it doesn't exist in the universe of your thing. So I learned the hard way.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So feed.
Yeah, I think that's why you got to have like physicality at the beginning, like walking or running or out of breath at the beginning of the lines. I always try to do that, which I think is quite important. And sometimes I've given my actors a shopping list of reactions that we just say, okay, remotely I've just gone like 3 versions of gasp, 3 versions of, shout, 3 versions of this, and then we've got almost
I like that
of reactions that we can
I like that
in places. And that's really useful. Yeah. Because then it's like, if they don't have that, then we've got a little bank for them. And sometimes we're like, oh, do you remember the bank from episode 2? Yeah, let's just get one of those. And it's like episode 6 or something, but we know we got a good scream in that one. So yeah, let's just, slot it in. And yeah, that can be a handy
I think we've got
resource.
one of those for Oz 9 with burps and coughs and and sounds of hooray and sounds of sadness, and I can't remember what else is in there, but definitely useful to get at any kind of record.
It's really good if you have, especially if you have a character who's being, let's say, a character who's being victimized, like somebody who's being brutalized in some way, that lets them make all of the pain noises or crying or whatever in their own way without being brutalized by you, the director, or you, the writer. You get that bank, and then you just have the extra sounds that you could sort of put in as you need them, so they're not being, punched in the face repeatedly by another actor or something. So
it can be tough. I had one. Okay, so the first time we started doing this, my actor did it voluntarily, and we were doing this all recording. So we had it was an asynchronous recording. So I was going through listening to all of the versions of the line, making a note of which one was my favorite on the script. And then it got to a moment, and he said, and he was in a torture scene. Okay, so this was exactly this, right? And he got to this moment, and then he just said, I'm going to do a few different versions of breathing for you. And I was like, okay, this is going to be weird. And I'm sitting there with my headphones on, and he's just doing heavy breathing. And I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, this is really weird. And then I was like, no,
yeah,
no, good breathing. Yeah. Good breathing. Yeah, we're going to need that breathing. Yeah. And
I had to do, I had to edit Robert Cudmore sleeping. And it was sort of like that slow breathing that you have and everything. But yeah, it's good to have that bank. I'm really glad you brought that up, Emily.
Super.
Can I just throw in something that...
Please do.
You can't necessarily write it into the script, although you can. But that is, what you were referring to earlier, is remind the actors to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is, theatre work as well. A lot of actors, they don't listen. They stand there waiting to say their line. Not the good ones.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell. But, actually listening to what's happening in the scene.
I'll tell you,
it sounds obvious, but they do need to be reminded. I know.
I think it's so brilliantly obvious that it's so interesting that you brought it up, because if we were people making television and we were making this podcast, we would not be having this conversation. And I would like to think we can come back and we can do this again in 6 years and have this conversation, and we won't have to say things like that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, I've seen TV shows where the background acting, like really big TV shows with quite decent, good actors in it. Yeah, the background acting is appalling.
Certainly, some background actors are on another planet, aren't they? Yeah.
Or it's just not their scene, and they're just sitting on the sofa, but they're just not in the room. It's like it's like, what is going on there?
I think that the people who you really you trust and you cast again and again are the people who, when they're at your rehearsal or your table read or your recording session or whatever, nothing else is happening. They're here to do the job right now. They're present. I had the experience of sitting next to an actress during a table read who was getting out her phone and her laptop when she wasn't needed in the scene and looking up other acting jobs, sitting right next to me. And I really just wanted to turn around and say to her, like, you do know I'm the writer and producer, right?
Yeah, like, we're paying you to be here, or like, you are doing a job right now.
She was so surprised when it was just like, really, you're not even... the more that you're aware, I don't know.
You don't disrespect the Lindsay. Lindsay is not to be disrespected.
Lindsay is not to be disrespected. Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we also know that those are the people that you say, thank you very much, here's your pay, good luck with the rest of your career, and you simply do not cast them again. And the people who do great, you're sitting here going, what can I write for you? You're sitting here pulling them aside saying, what do you want to do? Because I want to write something for you.
Please do
So
write
those are the people
lots of things for lovely voice actors. Can I just rewind a second? Regards to what you were saying, Floyd, listening, right? In audio, to show that you're listening, we make little breath sounds, don't we? And that's what I feel is still missing from a lot of things. And I know this is really a voice actor thing, but I'm going to say it anyway. That if you're listening to something, you're going to be disagreeing, agreeing, or reacting, having a little laugh or a gasp alongside something. So when you're going through that script, I do think that you've got more work to do than just the things it says on the script, like Brendan was saying, that he writes in a lot of the time. But if those reactions are happening under someone else's, one-page monologue, you still can try and do those little reaction sounds, I do feel. And they won't all be used because some of them will be overzealous. But because I've had to edit a lot of those myself. But with regards to that, it's like just putting in those subtle reactions of like little laughs, gasps, sighs, frustration, all of those. And there's so many that you could pop in.
I mean, like, if we took our actors onto a stage and we sat them on a stage and we recorded them together, perfectly mic'd, you would get those things. They would be there. And there's so much of this asynchronous recording in our sector, and there's so much of recording separately, whether it's synchronous or not, so that you're missing a lot of cues, you haven't got eye contact. So there's a lot of things that are stopping that from happening. I do worry that there'll be a lot of forced simulation of it. Right? Yeah. But you're absolutely right, Sarah, because it's the thing that makes it sound like there's life happening.
You know what? I don't agree with you, but I don't disagree with you. I totally understand that. I mean, look at one of these things where, say, the National Theater does make a video of a theater production. You might have a scene where, the two main characters are talking in front of a crowd, and the crowd are all going, "Oh, do you believe this? Oh my God, I can't believe he's going to marry her," whatever. They're doing their own thing. But when you see the final edit, those things aren't there. And yes, they are things that make the world feel whole and true and visceral, but they can also be a bit distracting.
Sure. As I say, I meant that overzealous is being subtle.
Well, it depends on the moment, doesn't it?
I mean,
some shots are supposed to be close-ups, and some shots are supposed to be long shots. Some shots are on one character, some are on two. And if we think of an analogy of shot sizes in audio, it is, in a sense, how far does the cone of listening go?
That's
really?
a good point.
Yes.
I want to say something contentious, that audio is the most visual medium we got, right? Would you agree?
It's in your brain.
It's in your brains.
It's certainly the cheapest.
It definitely is the cheapest CGI. I actually just recently read Audible commissioned. This is something that's just one of my favorite pieces of data right now. Audible commissioned a study with the University of College London where they basically said to people, we want you to sit down and either listen to a chunk of Game of Thrones and then watch a chunk of Game of Thrones, and we're going to put wrist sensors on you. And then they said to them, which do you think was more impactful? And they all said, definitely watching it on TV. But their bodies were, their heart rate, when they were listening to just the audiobook, their heart rate would go up. Their body temperature would change. Their skin, you get goosebumps, that kind of thing. And you get more like that because there's the process of co-creation in audio drama or in fiction, in audio fiction, that doesn't exist in, with TV, you can just sort of sack out. They tell you where to look.
But sadly, and there's also very often a process of doing the washing up while you're listening to audio drama. So that's what we're working against a lot of the time, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We've got to know that we're a co-pilot some of the time with the ironing.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's a bad thing. They discovered that kids who doodle while listening to lectures absorb more information. To me, washing dishes or folding laundry is my version of doodling while I'm listening to the lecture. I think we retain more because we are doing something physical.
Yeah.
It's like doodling in the margins. So I don't have a problem with people doodling while they're listening.
I had a friend who was in the listens to stuff in the bath. Okay, so that's their thing. They go in the bath and then they listen to that while they're doing their bath time things. And they had to take a break from the Dex Legacy because they got to the episode 4, I think it is, of season 1, where there's torture happening. And I was like, he said, oh yeah, I've been listening. It's really, really good. I was like, oh yeah. How did you get on? And he said, well, there was this moment where I was in the bath listening to kids being tortured, and I really had to just reassess my life choices for a moment.
Yes.
Gotta go home and rethink my life.
And I was like,
I
I can see why that wouldn't be something you'd want to be listening to in that environment. Maybe we should.
Groovy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And thank you, listeners, for listening to this show. If you've got any feedback for us, if you want to review us, if you want to contact these folks, check out our show notes and write to us at
Tell us what you do while you listen
at gmail.com. So, so what are your biggest problems then, people, that you've had to overcome in execution of a script from the voice actors and the sound design? Like, what are the things that we haven't already touched on?
One thing that I find difficult, and this is for sound design, so maybe this is a separate topic, but, for example, I'll have characters putting helmets on and off. Yeah. So how do I tell my sound designer, the helmet is on, the helmet is still on, helmet's still on, helmet's off, helmet's still off, helmet's back on again, helmet's back on again. And I mean, after a while, it just gets to the point of tedium in the script where I'm driving myself crazy and I just can't do that anymore. Or, they sound like they're underwater, or there's just things that continue on for a certain length of time, and I need to be able to signal to the sound designer, turn it on, turn it off. And the same to actors. I wish there were more ways to signify things in the script other than just italics and bold. Yeah. Like, it'd be nice if I could, everything in red is shouted, everything in purple is breathless, everything in green is, outdoors. I don't know, whatever the difference is, but it would be nice to have.
I have used color before. I've used color to... We had a thing with a character who was, let's just say she was of two minds about something. This was in Yarn Sock, so we had a character who sometimes would speak with sort of the front of her mind and sometimes with the back of her mind. And when it was the front of her mind, we used red. And when it was the back of her mind, we used blue. Now, if you're working with someone who's colorblind, you may have a problem. But a lot of times you can say to them, what is the best way for me to note this for you?
Yeah.
I think what we need is to talk to somebody who's a developer and just say, if you want to create specific scripting software for podcasters, this is the kind of stuff that we're missing. Yep. And that would be the ability to tell someone, this part of the scripting is done differently, maybe a different font. So, to use your spooky voice or a different, or your,
Yeah, font can actually do it.
Something where you could show them, exactly, functionally, that this part of the script is different without always having to rely on just the basics that we've got.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You can change the font or the color and fade in if you really want to.
Are you like doing something marketing for fade in? Tool. Like, do you get a kickback?
It's like I'm getting a kickback or something,
no,
right?
He's here because we wanted him to talk about fade in. So,
but no.
Well, it's sounding more and more awesome all the time. But it's like, man, do I have to get another thing? I think there's a point at which we get on burnout, all of us too, because there's so many things you can do as the creator of a show, and it's not just the writing; it's the marketing. And like right now, half of my attention is on this stupid Canva project I'm trying to do because
100 episodes,
blah, blah, blah,
right?
Yeah.
Celebration.
So what I would also like, if you're a podcast person out there who's designing for podcasters, is to make it just super freaking simple.
Yeah. There's so much going on in our heads already.
And have your support staff there and knowledgeable, because after having talked to my cable provider 3 times this week, I need people who know what they're talking about. So good support is also a thing that would be very nice to have.
Yeah.
And that is something that I have struggled with a little bit, but I'll just throw that out there.
Thinking about Shannon's example of helmet on, helmet off, I wrote a character in something, and it's a spoiler to say precisely what it was, but I wrote a character in something who had to do half of the lines, or 80% of the lines like this, 20% of the lines like this. And do you know what my solution was?
Yeah.
Get Beth Eyre to do it, because she will understand and she will
What
do
if you
it.
do?
Get Beth there and everything.
What if you did something like you had your character instead of like I could put down like Sarah 1, Sarah 2, and Sarah 1 would be Sarah with the helmet on, and Sarah 2 could be Sarah with the helmet off.
But then I've got to provide the actor with like a chart, and that just feels like it's putting a lot of onerous responsibility on the actor.
Sarah helmet on, Sarah helmet off.
Well, but it's not the actor; it's the sound effects person that's helmet on and helmet off.
It's the sound designer.
It's not up to the actor to make that sound. So
I think it's a really tricky one.
Maybe do them as the Riley then. Maybe do them as in the brackets underneath the.
Well, this is when
brackets and then helmet, because the convention would be for off screen and off camera in screenplay convention is it's built into this formatting software. It's either the OC or the OS or VO, right?
Yeah,
those conventions are built into the formatting for these things. So maybe a H on H off is the equivalent we're looking for here.
Yeah, I've got an idea.
What's that?
A feature in the software that your sound design instruction does an autocomplete the same way the character names do.
Yes.
So all you have to do is put HO and it'll go helmet on.
Yeah, it is a nice thing that, I mean, usually this is when line numbers come in handy. I can say, after I've written it and tweaked it, say at the top, helmet on for Jesse from line 60 to line 80, and I've done that before for the sound director. So that is one thing you can do. But yeah, it's one of those things. Every single script, I have my sound designers coming back, whoever of the 4 sound designers I've had are like, is the helmet on or off? Are they underwater here? Are they talking?
You know what? I mean, think about it though. It's like, if we were in theater, think about what making a story like this would have been like in, the 1980s or the 1950s when we had typewriters and pencils and,
Yeah, but I want it better now.
I want it better now. Where's my flying
I mean,
car?
that's great, but I wasn't doing it then.
Yeah. Also, a lot of it happened in the studio live with people in person. I mean, like doing stuff asynchronously wasn't even an option back then. So it would have been people in a room. So literally they would have been taking the helmet off and putting it on again if they did that. And if not, then it's amazing how much, like in terms of like old BBC, I mean, like with alternative stories, we sometimes do workshops about sort of audio drama and all of this stuff. And one of the stories that Chris says is about how the direction grams, which means like, background noise, whatever, is it comes from gramophone, because back in that time, if they wanted music to come in halfway through a scene, they'd have someone drop a needle onto the record at the right place for the music to then come in the live recording. So it's amazing what happened live in situ back then. And I mean, stuff like that then becomes incredibly organic. But then at the same time, helmet on, helmet off, helmet on, helmet off. Even that then can get messed up because somebody's in the midst of the scene, in the middle of it, as a director, unless you're standing in the middle of the microphones, pointing at them to put the helmet on, pointing at them to take it off, like you there's a certain amount of like, I guess there's not as much control as you would want to have.
Really?
Yeah.
If I'm reading the screenplay for, I don't know, Bad Boys 19 or something, Will Smith doesn't go, hang on, do I get out of the car after this line? Do I get out of the car after this line? Do I get out of the car after this line?
No, because
he just gets out of the car when it says he gets out of the car.
Yeah, because he's got, like, you've set up the entire scene. He says 3 lines and then he gets out of the car. If you're doing a, page of, like, several pages of audio drama on the trot, and you're saying to somebody, we're going to do the lines from page 6 to page 12, and then you say, oh, and by the way, halfway down page 4, there's a thing. And then by the time they get to halfway down page 4, they're several lines into it, maybe they're in the middle of an argument, maybe they're doing something, and they've got to then remember to do a thing. That is going to be easily missed. Will Smith can get out of the car because he says 3 lines and gets out the car. That's literally all he has to do. And he's got a whole team of people saying, get out of the car behind the cameras.
I think there is just, I think I've got an expectation that everyone's actually not I say it's the nicest way. I've got an expectation that everyone's understood
I
the
think
script.
you've hit a nail on the head there, Brendan. There's a lot of times where people are just, accidentally or for whatever reason have just misread something very key, and then that affects the production process as, down the line. So, which means that people are then chasing for lost lines and or mispronunciations and so on.
Let's say I'm lucky enough to get, let's say I'm producing a show with a SAG agreement, and I'm able to get Pedro Pascal for 2 hours to be in my show, and that means no longer, because I can't afford him. If I have a SAG agreement, so that means from the minute he walks in the door to the minute he walks out. So you're darn right, I'm going to be standing there in the control room doing every single cheerleader move to make sure that not 1 second of that time is wasted. Yes. So if that means I have to stand here and with a toy bow and arrow and shoot toy arrows at him so he can go, or whatever, I'm going to use that time as productively as possible.
This is Lindsay's fantasy being played out.
Well, ideally you want to finish 5 minutes before he has to leave so you can get a selfie as well. So that's really, extra, that's a bit of extra time.
So I'm going to, I mean, he seems nice about the selfies because everybody's got one.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just want to defend remote voice actors for a moment, because I know how bloody hard they work. And I think a majority of people who might listen to this podcast are also working with remote crews. And you can't guarantee what else that voice actor's got going on at that time. They might have small kids that are running around that they've had to stop recording and go back and forth. They might have animals barking. They might have they've got to go and...
What are you saying, Sarah?
How many of the blooper reels are Shannon's lovely dog Zoe walking across the floor? It's really funny. It's become a part of my staple.
I get her toenails clipped.
I think it's symptomatic. It's symptomatic not of carelessness, but of bootstrapping, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not that people are careless or they're incapable. It's just the entire industry is bootstrapped.
But I mean, it's also, when we started out with season 1 of The Dex Legacy, everyone was in lockdown, so we had a lot of young actors who had just got out of drama school, and they were screwed that year because, they would usually be going and doing their theatre showcases, and all of the theatres were shut. So we were giving them employment by getting them involved in the Dex Legacy. Now, these people were living sometimes in central London, especially later lockdowns when things weren't quite as, quiet outside. So they were having to get up at 2:00 in the morning to record, because it was the only time that they could get quiet in their flats to record. So not only are they recording on their own, without live direction, with zero rehearsals and no one to act off, but they're also doing it at 2:00 in the morning. And, these are situations that it's people trying their best, but in situations where you don't have a crew around them to support them, you don't have rehearsal time, you don't have a director there to help them out, and they're doing their best. And obviously, sometimes things don't go according to plan. Sometimes that happens. You can't get it your way all of the time when you've got a situation like that unfolding. You just can't. And all you can do is be understanding. Try and communicate as much as possible. Try and make the scripts as clear as possible. We do little 5-minute videos of character descriptions ahead of time so people can watch the videos.
Oh, I like that.
And get an idea of character and everything beforehand. And say, this is who they are. And it really helps the actor to sort of get, grounded. And it's something I started doing, knowing that people were going to be recording isolated, knowing nothing about the character and having no one to talk to. And that horrified me. But, even so, you can give the actor everything, but they're still going to be on their own sometimes. And they're still going to be doing their best. And they're still going to be potentially recording at 2:00 in the morning, because that's the only time it's quiet.
And that's that balance, I think, that's so hard to do, is I want them to be able to go through the script and be caught in the moment and having the emotions that the character is supposed to be having and all that, without having to read, am I supposed to be sighing here? I want it's a real balancing act for us to not over direct, because it's going to interrupt the flow of the moment, but also to make sure that what they need to get through the scene the way we hope they will is in there. And and people may not go through the script more than once. Like you said, people have lives and kids and dogs and, lawns that need mowed as I'm sitting here watching my grass growing out the window, I swear. It's just, it's very difficult to do all those things. And so there's, the more we can provide for them quickly, and that's why things like color coding and font coding and things like that can be a quick reference that they don't have to like read every time. And consistency is one of my major challenges too.
But another thing that I think we have that is a blessing is that our work doesn't have to go through a million committees. Like, it's not like we have to, right. It's basically, I can write it, I can show it, I can write it, I can have a table read with my friends and they can give me feedback, I can produce it, and I can put it out into the world. And that's how you get shows like, say, for example, Small Victories. Imagine that show being on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. That's a tough show. It's a great show. But I mean, that's a show that would, that's a show that would have died in, and think about all the shows that, we hear stories about people like, Girl in Space that was supposed to be, Girl in Space was being optioned, and then it wasn't because of studio weird stuff. And, somebody got fired or somebody got transferred or somebody bought something. And, we can make these things happen. We don't have to have a million people having input on our scripts. So,
yeah.
Well, knowing the team we've got here, most of you aren't the sole writer. You're doing many other jobs too. Editing, producing, publicizing, casting, doing
directing,
everything. And I think there's the whole shebang. So I think that perspective of your script is brilliant, and I think as you go, it's like learning those things that really work for the teams that you're working with. So if you've got any solutions to any of the things we've posed today, then why not start a chat on the Audio Drama Hub or on any of our social media sites and tag us in. We'd love to join in with you to hear what you think.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Well, to summarise, for our finale, we'd love you to just give your last pitch for your own writing tool, your favourite, right? Why do you think it's better than others, and why people should use it to make their audio drama amazing? So, Emily, go for it.
It's free. No, that's not the only one.
So this is Google Docs. It's free.
It's free. You can edit offline. You can share with people super easily. It's it's fine, and it's great with iPad. You can scroll. It's really easy. It's super easy, and it's free. Everyone has it pretty much, and you can share the documents with everyone via email, and it's live, and you can be updating them live in the studio. So if somebody, if you suddenly want to tweak a line because you've realized that something needs to change, you can literally change the document, and there it is live on everybody's screen. This is the line that it now is.
It's free.
Brilliant.
It's flexible.
I don't know if there's anything like that. Yeah, it's live.
Love
it's great. So
super pitch. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Shannon.
I don't know that I would particularly advocate for Celtics over anything else. It's a perfectly good program. It's very functional. It does not have a lot of things Emily just mentioned. And one of the things I think would be really nice is if it exported in something besides a PDF, because then I could throw it into Google Docs and actually be able to do that live updating. But it's either a TXT file, which is useless for me, or a PDF, and that makes it very hard to edit. So that function would be very nice to have. So Celtics is fine. It works fine for me. I think there are probably options out there that are just as good. I think there's a lot of Celtics I haven't discovered, which might have made me more of an advocate for it. But there you go.
Thank you, Shannon. Super. And Floyd.
Yes, I think listening to you guys and all these other fabulous programs and what they can do, I think Scrivener is probably good the way I came into it. As a starter, because it sets out all the elements that you're going to need to be expressing, to be articulating in an audio script. And then if you want to move on to the big guys, I just want to say to Shannon, if you export to a PDF, you can export your PDF to Word.
Yeah, but man, I'll tell you, the formatting function, it just turns it into a gobbledygook at that point, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
So because
I tried that.
I was doing, worth it, Thanks.
Yeah. I didn't realize for ages that I could be compiling. That was the word Scrivener uses.
Yeah.
Compiling the script into Word. So I was going to PDF and then I was changing it over to Word.
Every time you say the word word, my body flinches because I have this weird phenomenon, where the Word document, the words disappear for a paragraph, like they just go and I can see the rest of it and I don't know why it's doing it. So I hate Word. I can't understand what's happening. Maybe I've got lots of windows open or something and the memory's going, you're not going to see this, but it's secret. But I just hate using Word for that format reason. And I do transpose a lot of the different scripts I get from Wireless into a Word document so I can then edit and then transpose it back to the format that we can utilize for recording. But yeah, I'm finding Word very frustrating. So that was my Word rant.
We're proud to buy Sarah a computer made in the 21st century.
Seriously.
Yes, Brendan, fire away with your pitch for yours. Why do you love it so?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to pitch for index cards because I could write without anything else. I couldn't write without index cards. If I can't stand back and look at the shape of the thing, know the flow of the thing is working, where the arcs start, where they peak, where the reversals come, pinch points are, or whatever terminology you want to use, if I can't stand back and look at the skeleton, basically I've got a bag of bones.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I use Sheets for that. I've realised when you were talking about that. I use Google Sheets to map out all of my story structure by scenes according to character groups. And then I can also heat map with those. So I fill in the cells with green, amber, red, depending on how high tension the scene is. And then I can see down on the spreadsheet, I can just scroll and say, okay, well, this episode has like 15 scenes and, you know, it's, you know, very high tension episode or whatever. And I can see all of that. And I've just realized I do all of that, but it's just it's in a Google sheet. And like now I know that I do that. I always hear the stuff that writers do and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds really, you know, professional and I should definitely be doing that, you know, like, you know, when I'm a grown up writer and I actually do this. And then I'm like, oh my God, I do that, but with a sheet. I do it.
There's literally a production company, probably shouldn't name them, but I did a bit of work on a film for them last year and they wanted a Google spreadsheet with coloured cells tracking the A plot, the B plot, and the C plot.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I think you can do similar things in Final Draft. Who was it? Now I can't remember her name, but I believe we have Space Junk. Is that Beth Crane?
We fix
Space Junk. Beth Crane. She writes everything in like an Excel spreadsheet.
No, it's in Word in tabular form. So basically she created like a table basically and she writes
she uses the table format. That's another format.
And that's great. I've seen that in action and it works really well.
Yeah, I've told myself to at least try it. I've told myself, I think with a lot of these, you have to just try them and see if they fit.
Suck it and see.
I've seen it done and I've seen it done badly. And it's because they didn't look up how you do it. And it would have been, so definitely look up how you do it. And it's not, so it's like, there's a specific thing. It's like one column for name, one column for directions, one column for the speech. And they had just done name, everything else. And it was an absolute nightmare. It was so sorry. Awful. So yeah, if you're going to try the tabular format, look it up. Make sure it can be clear. But
brilliant. Thank you. Well, team, what a super wealth of information you've shared today. Really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing some.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your knowledge and your experience. I really, really appreciate it.
Truly.
This has been fantastic. And getting to talk with other writers also always gives you that wind in your sails.
I'm inspired.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Go get him, Tiger.
I'm going to try more stuff.
I went right from inspired to exhausted.
You both, my friend. But yes, seriously, we really hope that you have the best of writing experiences from today forth, and that everything just works like clockwork. Your actors behave themselves, and you get some groovy accolades for all the brilliance that you put out into this beautiful, crazy world. So thank you very much for joining us. Emily Inkpen, Shannon K. Berry, Floyd Kennedy, and Brendan Connolly. We really appreciate you coming on the show today. If you want to say ta-ta, you will hear us next time on Adwit. And thank you very much from me and Lindsay. Bye. Happy writing, people. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a wonderful day. Keep writing. Happy writing. Avanti.
Hooray.
6630 Productions.
If you enjoy audio drama and fiction podcasts, sign up for the Fiction Podcast Weekly. It's an email newsletter with the latest news, events, creative opportunities, job listings, behind-the-scenes production resources, podcast milestones, debuts, and finales. Plus, it's free. Sign up now at thepodcasthost.com/fictionpodcastweekly.